healing is not a substitute for anything else. If it's not going to help any human or any horse live for 500 years. If we go to an animal, if we go to a horse and say, I want to know something about me, or I want to know something else, it's an agenda. So when I'm teaching, I always say, go in neutral, go with an unconditional love.
Actually, when you show up and ask whoever that is, whether it's a horse, a dog, a human, who are you? Actually, there's a real openness to getting to know someone. It must be an incredible feeling.
This life is for a set time. And this is not going to help us on our journey.
And we're all connected to our phones at 24/7, waiting for that work call or email, waiting to hear from that person.
We make a choice to do that. My phone, people are always saying to me, I can't reach you because I spend specific times when I switch it on and I look, no one, absolutely no one, not even Elon Musk, is on his phone all of the time.
How often do you wonder what your horse is thinking? Margrit Coates is a horse healer and believes it's possible to find out with practice and commitment. In 2001, Margaret published her book called Healing for Horses, which was the first of its kind. And Michael Morpurgo himself, who is famous for writing War Horse, which is now also a major motion picture and stage show, described Margaret's work as terrific and much needed. So how did Margaret pursue the path of a horse healer? Is it really possible to step inside our horse's mind? And can anyone harness healing skills to better relationships with our horses? Let's find out, shall we? Margaret, welcome to Curious Equestrian.
Hi, it's really nice to be with you, Anna.
Now take us back to the very beginning when horses first came into your life.
So my first experience, I remember it clearly, I was about 4 years old and I was out walking with my father. We weren't a horsey family, lived in a city in Yorkshire, and we went to the edge of the city where it became countryside, and we ended up walking down a lane, and suddenly this creature appeared. It was a woman on a horse, and I had never experienced a horse in my life before. And I remember looking and being completely mesmerized, and then connecting, and now I recognize it was a soul-to-soul connection, and connecting and being more interested in the horse than the person, and just knowing that I knew who that horse was. It was, obviously I'm very small, but I vividly remember the encounter and having this intense experience. I mean, I remember starting to quiver and shake because this being in front of me, this horse, was incredibly magical. And then I wanted to get involved with horses, but my family weren't in the situation where they could afford such things. And fast forward to in my late 20s, when I was earning money and could find an opportunity to become more involved with horses.
Wow. And what were those years like, Margaret? Sort of being unable to be around horses, but knowing that one day it was a far-off dream for you?
Well, I became a student, and so life was very busy in that respect. I had friends, obviously, at the college who were involved with horses, and they would show me photographs and they would talk about it. And I just remember thinking, this is my ambition. One day this will come to me. So in my late 20s, I moved to a village, and there was a farmer there, and his wife had about 7 horses and ponies. and she only allowed people to go there on a small. She wasn't running a riding school, but you could go if she liked you and if you got to know her. You could go there, and on the weekend you could go out, groom the ponies. She would teach about horsemanship, and you could ride them. So that's what I ended up doing, just riding around through the woods, riding around the countryside. And it wasn't competitive stuff, it was all very natural. That's all she wanted to do, was have a very natural time with the horses. And it was when I moved away from there to where I was living the next time, and thought, okay, I need to learn more about horsemanship, more about horses, and went to a big competition yard that was always also teaching riding, that I became horrified, completely horrified by my experience there.
It sounds like you had what was a really lovely, wonderful, natural experience with the farmer's wife,
Yeah.
and then a totally contrasting experience. What was it like having only experienced horses in that very wholesome and nurturing way to then see what that particular competition yard was like?
Horrifying. I thought these people have an official job as horse trainers, horse instructors, livery yard owners. It was a big place, but they have no idea what they're doing. They're not seeing the horses. They don't have empathy. And I wrote in, I think it's my first book, in the riding lesson I was having. The horse was called Charlie Brown, and everything was mechanical, automotive. It was like the horses were just a different version of a car. And I remember he was so sweet, this horse, and I went to. I can't remember if I was putting the stirrup up or putting it down, but he turned his head just to touch me. It wasn't a hurt thing. He was just acknowledging I was there. And the instructor who was standing in front of him lashed him across the face with her whip. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, he has to stand still when anything's done to him." And I said, "Okay, I'm out of here. You, you, you're not fit to be anywhere near horses, and I'm never coming back again." And so I left, and that was my ending of these formal places, because I'd been there a few weeks and everything was just horrendous. They were creating stress, causing stress in horses. They didn't recognize pain signals. They weren't hearing them. They didn't see them as a sentient being. They're just a thing. And then there was a period where I wasn't involved, and then I met someone. I was living in Kent at the time, who was a competitive rider, but in a really good way. In sort of dressage riding, but not like it is now. I mean, there was no roll call involved and no blue tongue or anything. And he had a retired horse who was 18, and he said to me, "You can be with him whenever you want to. You can ride him." And he was just magical. I mean, he was just amazing horse. So I spent a few years riding him around, having lessons on him, and this guy was very, very empathic. It was all loose rein, body language. It was very, very different to any of the competition that I've seen, particularly now this year with the Olympics, which has focused the public on, do we give them license to carry on with all of this stuff, or do things have to change? And clearly they have to change. So that was my next experience. And then I moved to Wiltshire, where I am now, and was very lucky again that I was working with a woman. She was my secretary, actually, who had a spare horse, another older horse. So I would go evenings, weekends, hacking out in the Wiltshire Downs, and that was lovely. And then I moved to where I am now in the New Forest, and again met somebody who had a spare horse, and and spent many years hacking around the New Forest, which was lovely.
Before we continue, I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you to all the supporters that make this show happen, our incredible Curious Equestrian community. Many of you have asked how we can keep in touch between episodes. Well, we've created something super special just for you, the Curious Equestrian newsletter. You'll gain access to our personal insights on every interview, articles written by guest speakers and authors, plus equine experts who are challenging what we think about our horses. If you're as passionate as we are about challenging the status quo and pushing boundaries in the horse world, then you will love our newsletter. Head on over to curiousequestrian.co.uk to join our newsletter community. Right, let's jump back into the discussion, shall we?
And at what point, Margaret, did you think, I have a connection, a unique connection to horses?
So yeah, that's a great question. So this is going back 25 years where I was head of public relations for a international PLC, and I got made redundant. Just moved into this house, was preparing to marry my husband, who is now my husband, and the company I was working for got taken over, and as these things happen, there's takeovers, there's changes, and they made a chunk of people redundant and asked for volunteers. And I just thought, do you know what? This isn't my life. I want to do something else. I don't know what, but I'm called to do something else. So I took the redundancy, and then after a few weeks, so if I just go back to the fact that I've always been a healer. I've always recognized healing energy. From a child, I thought it was normal that you would touch people, you would gravitate towards people, you knew you had an empathy to humans as well as animals, and I've always had animals. So I thought, I'm going to go back to those roots. So I retrained in several areas of complementary medicine. And after 3 years, I took lots of diplomas with very, very good tutors. I had my own clinic, and for some reason people gravitated towards me who were very sick. A lot of them had cancer, they were terminally ill, and healing's very soothing for them. It gave them a feeling of peace. And one of the women who had a lot of health issues and didn't have much time left, and she wanted healing for the peace it gave her, said to me, I know I haven't got long. Do you work with animals as a healer? And at that time, I hadn't considered it. So I said, well, of course, healing animals, we're human animals, and they're just a different species. She said, will you come to my horse? Can I meet you with my horse? Because before I leave this planet and go into another time, another place, I would like my horse to feel the peace that I'm feeling with the healing. So I went and met her horse, and she joined in the session, and she was blown away by what she felt, and she could see the response in the horse. And so that experience made me think, okay, I need to get a book on this. I'll go and find a book, because is there a special way of doing it? I was already a registered healer. I'd gone through that process. And so my nearest city is Southampton. I went to Southampton University Library, spent a day there, and discovered there wasn't one book in the world written specifically about healing for animals. I could find in 2 old books one sentence: animals respond to healing energy, and one of them said you could try healing if you're practicing healing with animals. And that it was at that point I thought, okay, I'll write one, because I was used to writing through my marketing job. Even though it was technical stuff, I was working for big industry, equipment stuff. And so I wrote the synopsis for Healing for Horses, because by this time, after I thought about this, she had referred me to lots of claimants. So suddenly I've got lots of horses in my life. People want healing. So I wrote the synopsis and I sent it to, this is a bit of a long story. I hope you can bear with me.
We are all in, Margaret. We're all in.
So I wrote the synopsis, found out the main horse publishers at the time in the UK, and I think there were 6. Sent the synopsis to all of those publishers, and within 2 weeks I had a reply. And basically they all said the same thing in different ways. You're crazy. Horses are things. We write books about whips, spurs, training, jumping. Who are you and where are you coming from? You seem a little bit strange. This topic will never sell. So I thought, okay, I just keep my head down, do what I'm doing. And then the story gets even more interesting. And I remember it vividly. It was October in it was either 19 or 20, because it takes a year to write a book and get it produced. And I was sitting in the October in the garden here on a wooden bench with the 2 cats I had then, mother and son from a rescue. And it was a lovely sunny October day. It was peaceful. I put my coffee down on the ground in front of me, and as I looked down and then looked up, one of the cats had moved, was standing in front of me and making eye contact. And I clearly heard him say, and this sounds crazy, but it happened, and the rest of the story shows how it was validated. Go into your office, you have to write the book that's in your head and in your soul. Go into your office, pick a book off your bookshelf, send the synopsis to that publisher. And some people at this point, when I'm telling you this, might think this is a cat. Okay, we all communicate through interspecies. Everything has a soul energy. Everything can tell a story. The problem with humans is we've become so disconnected. We've lost our reality. So that's normal to me. So I look at the cats and I say, okay, let's go. So I walk into the house and the 2 cats are walking behind me, following me, just checking. Come into my office and they're watching me, and they sit down, and I go and take a book off the bookshelf and I look at it and I say, no, this isn't going to work. This book is about, I can't remember what it was about. I think it was about meditation or something. And they're staring at me, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? It was before intensive emails in those days. You had to post things off, because I think 2019, 2000 and no, it's 1999. Okay, 1999. And so I printed off my synopsis. I made a phone call and found out the address of this particular publisher, not a horsey publisher, and sent off a letter. And 2 days later, the phone rings and this woman says, hello, I'm Judith Kendra. I'm the, you've sent a letter to us, Random House. We actually publish Mind, Body, Spirit books. I don't know how your letter ended up on my desk this morning, because we get 200 submissions a day. That was then, it's more now. We get 200 submissions a day. My desk has been cleared. I have a new secretary, and I told her when she started yesterday, do not clear my desk. Leave the pile. she's come in, she's cleared my desk, and your letter's in the middle in the space. So she
Wow.
said, actually, I'm intrigued because we publish books about human healing, and that the book I'd picked up was a meditation book they'd published. I think it was by Deepak Chopra.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, we do publish books about healing, but never about animals. But last week we sat in a brainstorming meeting, and I said to everybody, okay, new markets, let's brainstorm what we can do that's different. And one of the people said, well, I've just got a dog. Maybe, do you think dogs could respond to healing? Do you think that could work? And she said, and now here's your book talking about healing for horses. She said, we've
Wow.
never published any horse books, but I'm intrigued. So she said, can I come and meet you? She came and met me 2 days later at a horse yard. She came on the train. I picked her up. We went to this place. She met me. She watched me work. She had no idea about horses, but all she was interested in, what she saw, was the healing energy working. She saw the change in the horses. She heard what the humans said about what my horse has never been like this. I can see a change. I can feel something. So I wrote Healing for Horses for them. And then they ended up commissioning 6 books in total. It was Healing for Horses, Horses Talking, Connecting with Horses, Communicating with Animals, Hands-on Healing for Pets, and Angel Pets. And I've since published a 7th one with someone else. And that just kicked off everything. So when Healing for Horses came out, I had messages coming from all around the world about teaching somewhere, doing something, has just led me to where I am now. So for me, it's listen to the animals without an agenda. If we go to an animal, if we go to a horse and say, I want to know something about me, or I want to know something else, it's an agenda. So when I'm teaching, I always say, go in neutral, go with unconditional love, and let the true information come in. So that's my story, and that's why I'm here now. And I've just come back from the Netherlands, and already been booked next year 2 trips back to the Netherlands and to the Czech Republic. Both the Netherlands and the Czech Republic, it's to support book translations there. So I have translations into, I think it's now 8 languages.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
it's a bit of a long-winded story, but that's how I got to be where I am. And I feel so humble and so grateful. I often think, why me? And I think, well, why not? And so I don't teach a method or a system in my workshops. I'm helping people to open themselves up to their truth, to their soul level of working, to healing, to work in neutral, to work on that level. I've just come back a few days ago from the Netherlands, and this morning I had a photo sent to me of the horse that I demonstrated on, and it's always very humbling when someone's coming with their horse for the demonstrations, and you just have to be you just have to work on a wavelength of love. That's the only way it's going to work. And she came in, she had been with this lady for 4 years, and she'd taken a little pony as well as a companion, ex-dressage horse, with hind limb problems, overworked, horrible life before. And this lady has just taken her and said she'll live this life at this lovely place. Nothing's going to be asked from her. She's free, she has lots of friends, she can go in the paddock, she's warm at night and everything. And they sent me a photograph this morning of her coming in day 1, and you can see in her eyes the sadness, her history, but she's listening to me. You can see that as well. I've got my hand on. And then they sent me a photograph of her now. I came back on Monday, so this was last weekend only, and we Wednesday or Thursday today, so only a few days ago. And they've just sent me a photograph, and I almost cried when I saw it, because she is smiling, she's shining, she's got soft eyes, and people are sending me messages saying she's calling to people now when they arrive at this place. When they go and see her, she's saying hello. She's a completely different horse. And I always say also to people when I'm working, just being neutral and join in the healing, let the healing flow into you, and the owner felt this. So I find that is priceless. That's the reward for me, that this horse and all the other horses have been helped. She's let go of everything. She feels happy. She's in a new place. The woman feels happy, and the people on the workshop have all gone away to practice healing and to connect to horses on this soul to soul level, because that's a fact. We're all energy beings, and so are the horses.
Margaret, talk us through what it means to you to be a horse healer, because I think we all imagine different images when we think of the term horse healer, but what does that look like and feel like to you?
It's not about performing miracles. It's not about saying your horse has been lame for 6 years, I can lay my hands on and they will be a different horse. It's about reaching the purest level of, it's reaching them as a being, as an individual being. So it's letting the healing energy flow. The relationship is between the healing energy and the recipient always. I'm the human that's allowing that process to take place with the connection. My healing connection is very strong because I've practiced it for so many years with thousands, tens of thousands of experiences. So I make that connection. I always say to the people there, you're in the healing loop if you want to be, through holding the rope or standing close, if you'd like to experience what this feels like. And then it's waiting to see what happens. And many things can manifest. So there could be licking and chewing. The colour of the coat could change, and that sounds impossible, but it does. It gets brighter or darker, shiny areas, sweaty patches, hairs stand up, marks stand up. The horse can become very sleepy, and then in most situations people notice a difference. I say most situations because if I'm called to a high-level competition horse, probably the lifestyle won't change. They probably have an agenda where they want healing for some, let's go out and win more things, etc. But in most of the cases I'm going out, people genuinely want to help the horses. They want to help the horses for a different reason. It's not about winning anything or achieving anything. It's because people are loving these friends, and so that's what the session looks like. And it's also not a method or a system. So although there are centers of energy on a horse, which we call chakras, it's about how does the horse allow this process to take place. Some horses might be very traumatized. They might be in a lot of pain. They might not want physical hand contact. So I'm reading the horse. I'm asking the horse, if I can make the initial contact over the shoulder area, which is the main chakra, then I will do so. But you can stand back and allow the healing energy to take place. So it's for me as the healer to go completely into that place of inner stillness and allow the healing energy to flow. and and just see how the horse responds, what happens on an individual basis. And I always say to people, no matter how many tens of thousands of sessions I've done, I'll always learn something new, because I'm with a unique being. This horse and that horse and this horse and that horse are unique. There's always something new to learn. It might be subtle, it might be big. Huge changes can take place. One of the important things I need to mention is healing is not a substitute for veterinary care or attention. So when somebody gets in touch, I ask them, I say, I don't want to know anything other than the horse's name, the age, and whether or not you have contacted a vet for the problem that you have. And you have got to do that. Healing isn't a substitute. So if you've got any problems whatsoever, even behavioural, because behavioural can be a manifestation of pain or disease or some other infection. So people have to have seen the vet first before I will go, and that's a responsibility to the horse. It's not you don't come to me because you want a cheaper version of, instead of going to a vet, and I know how expensive they are, but the horse deserves that attention. Same with humans. Because I'm registered for both, people first have to go for a medical checkup, because there might be something that process can help them with, and then healing is a support, an add-on, something else.
And talk us through that, Margaret, because that's really interesting. So always seek medical attention, whether from a doctor or a vet, whether you're a human or an animal, for sort of physical issues that you're facing.
Yeah, something that needs addressing from that level, because otherwise healing isn't a substitute for veterinary care or attention. It's complementary. And I am not going to get involved with horses suffering that might simply need a new farrier, or they might have back pain, or the teeth might need doing, or the vet takes blood tests and says, you know, the horse has got Cushing's or something. That all has to be done first, and then the healing is complementary to that.
And tell us,
and can help the recovery process.
What does your healing, Margaret, target? Tell us, what does your healing bring additionally?
It's because it works at soul level, it's supportive for the whole system on whatever level is possible. So when I'm teaching, I teach a lot of science through the healing and how it influences the cells. Everything's energy, right down to the mitochondria, which is the basic building block of cells. So everything's influenced by energy. So it's the healing energy flows and it does its stuff. It goes where it needs to, and everything works simultaneously. It can be calming, relaxing. It can it's working on the physical level simultaneously. And I mean, do any of us really know what the process is? There's something magical happens. I know, I can see it. People write to me about it. It's really important that humans step into their truth and reality. Look at the picture of the world if everybody was practicing healing, instead of all the other stuff that's going on.
And talk us through.
I have a lot of vet friends around the world. A lot of people who are horse behaviorists, authentic ones, as you know, university graduates, farriers, horse dentists, saddle people. I'm involved with lots of these people I've met through my work, who are also very much on the healing wavelength, the holistic wavelength, and so I'm teaching everyone can do this with the right mindset. if people are going and wanting something for themselves, or it's about an agenda, it doesn't work. It has to be completely through unconditional love, letting go and seeing the horse. Quite often when I'm with a horse, and I always say, who are you? Who are you? And that instantly makes a difference to the horse, because that horse might never have been seen as a spiritual being.
And isn't that interesting? Because I was just thinking about how you work with humans and with animals, horses and pets alike, including horses as pets. And how interesting that actually when you show up and ask whoever that is, whether it's a horse, a dog, a human, who are you? Actually, there's a real openness to getting to know someone. It must be
Yeah,
an incredible feeling, and actually
it
one that's
is.
very different to normal society where everyone's too busy, they're already an
Yeah.
hour late, they're rushing and they're all consumed with our own issues.
I remember once going into a horse rescue, and a chestnut mare was so traumatized. She was just lying down, um, I mean, obviously physically abused, but emotionally as well. And the rescue had done a huge amount to sort out the physical problems. And I knelt down next to her and laid a hand on her, and I just said, I see you. I know you. I know you. And actual tears ran down her face. And the staff said, oh my goodness. And I said, but think about it. I mean, they obviously had called me in, so they were there on the page. And I said, this is a sentient being. You know, I don't eat animal products for the same reason. They've all got thoughts and feelings and emotions. None of those are exclusive to humans. They belong to all living beings. So as humans, let's step into our highest power of being a species that understands this, that has more opportunity to express ourselves through speaking, writing, reading things. We've got all of that. We're given the opportunity to do all of these things. But let's be caring and feeling and loving to the point where we nurture all life. And it makes a difference. And I've seen it time and time again in the horses, in their eyes. I've felt their body change under my hands. And with the cats and dogs. Obviously, they're a different species. Horses are prey animals, we're predators. So we can't be airy-fairy and fluffy about it. We have to have knowledge about what this big animal could do if this big animal suddenly moves or flings a head around and things. But having set that aside, I feel I owe something to these beings to help them.
And Margaret, you talk about the healing connection. Now, sometimes you stand with the horse and you don't need to make physical contact, but when you do, explain that process to us. Is it emotion? Is it a massage? Is it a stroke? How do you connect and heal in that way?
It's a simple light hand touch contact with still hands. If people start waving their arms about and massaging, that is not healing. That becomes an agenda or something completely different. So I'm just making if I can do it on the screen, just the gentle hand contact, gentle touch, softly with permission, and it's in stillness. Because if people start waving their hands about, they are not still. You can't be waving your hands about, doing things and have inner stillness. A healer practices through stillness. And with humans, there are specific rules. I'm a registered healer, about where you touch and how you approach it. And then the way I teach it with animals is also about huge respect and where you touch and what you do. It might be hands off. because we are with a different species. So it's a question of making that judgment on the time, or maybe you might just be standing back. It's definitely not massage. It's not manipulation. It's not any of those other labels. It is channeling healing energy.
And
If
talk
I'd
us
just like to
through,
touch on the difference between
yeah,
Reiki and the healing I practice and healers in my organization. Reiki uses symbols to access energy. Healers like myself and from the Healing Trust, we don't use symbols because the healing energy is there. It's abundant, and the symbols are man-made. And so I'm going to the universe, and I'm going to the oneness that the animals belong to and connecting to that. So that's the big difference.
and how did you know, Margaret? You talk about when you were 4 years old and you were overwhelmed by the magic of horses. At what point did you realise you were a healer? And can anyone be a healer?
Yeah, so from a child, I always felt a sensitivity, and as I grew older, I often people used to say you're a strange child, because I might sit with someone and say, oh, you're sad, or you don't
Oh,
feel well, and I wanted to touch. And we've sort of moved that out of society now. We're not and I was going to school at a time when in a way you could express yourself artistically and through music and things, and we didn't have this.
mm,
So that's taken away. That's created a wall between
yeah.
people, the connection to the universe, reality, all these things. And so I was lucky. I was at a time when there were no distractions. So I would spend a lot of time outside walking, looking at animals, looking at birds, and just knowing them, just hearing them.
Mm.
And it's there for anybody who would like to develop that level. But it means not being involved for hours with social media or technology. It's, my courses, I say to people, as you arrive, switch your phone off. You can't dip in and out of this stuff. You just have to find yourself and go into the peace. So I'm teaching again in the Netherlands and the Czech Republic next year. And one of the workshops will be developing the intuition and the higher self and accessing that, because that brings in so many magical areas about creativity, healing, self-expression. And that will be very special 2-day workshops where people can completely switch off and find out their spiritual pathway.
And talk us through, you've already given us some fascinating insights, but talk us through some of the transformations you've seen, Margaret. Is there a particular horse that comes to mind who has been transformed by that healing connection and by your healing workshops?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I can pick out a few. Recently, I went to a horse who was quite shut down, and as I touched her, I immediately saw her in a sling. So just an image came of her in a sling. So there again, I always say, you've been to a vet, you put that on the form, don't tell me anything. I don't want information blocking me. And I saw her in a sling. And as that happened, she started to breathe heavily. She released a lot. She became softer under my hands. She was quite unsteady, and I said to the woman, this is what I'm seeing. There was also a horse trainer there who had invited me along, and she said, how do you know that? And I said, well, I'm just there with her and I can sense it, and the healing has become stronger. And she said, well, a couple of weeks ago she was in a veterinary hospital in a sling, to have some surgery done. Her heart stopped,
No.
and they had to restart the heart. And all of that's an energy blockage. That's all energy stuff in the body. And the healing was doing something. Who knows what? I mean, it was happening. It was all kicking off. And the horse was a different horse the next day, because can they talk about their problems like we can? No, they can't. Healing is a great way of releasing that. If everybody with their horses was healing them without saying, I want something, I want you to go faster, I want you to do more this, that doesn't work. That's not what healing is. So she was very, very different. I remember another horse once, and this has happened a few times, a racehorse, a retired racehorse with a woman, had several. And the woman said, since I've had her, she's so shut down. She's she's with other horses. Nothing's asked for her. She's not ridden anymore. She's not having a working life, but she's just lost. And as I put my hands on, she, after a while, a few minutes, she got into the healing, and she started to scream. So it was first of all it was and then she did some screams, and I looked around, but there was nothing there. There was some woods, there were no other horses, and she did it then with her head dropped, so she was doing it from within, and it was all happening. And then I saw several foals with her, and I mentioned this to the woman. She said, oh yes, she was used after she got injured in racing as a breeding mare. And I said, yeah, and they take them away a couple of months, and she's now, all that grief, all the crying that the horse does, and people don't identify them, and they don't recognize that they're capable of, because they can't physically lie down and sob and scream and write to the newspapers about it. It was coming away, and she did this for several minutes, and then it was like she was spent. She just dropped. And then the woman contacted me a few days later, and she said, everything's gone. She's talking to me now, and she's interacting, and she's let it all go. And that was quite a humbling experience. And there was another horse I was with, 36 years old, and I'd known him for many years. And then the lady got in touch and said, it's his time. He's foundered. His feet have collapsed.
Oh.
And the vet's coming. Have you got time to come over and give healing before the vet arrives? And I said yes, of course. It wasn't too far from me, and obviously the vet had known me over the years, and the vet permission was in place. So I went over, and he was lying on the floor. He was on a lot of veterinary medication for pain relief, and he was lying on the floor groaning. And one of the things that healing has been researched for, there's some research into healing, is help with pain relief, because it can release endorphins. So I went immediately and knelt down by him, was channeling healing, and he stopped groaning and he looked peaceful, because my intention then was to help with pain relief. He had maximum dose from the vet, and all of a sudden he went to get up, and it took him a while for him to stand up, and very slowly he went through the stable to the doorway. And it was a March day. The sky was black. It had been raining all day, and it had just stopped raining. And as he got to the doorway, he put his head out. The door was open. He put his head out, and as he did that, the clouds parted, and a shaft of sunlight came down onto his head. And then he stepped forward into the paddock, and he called to the other horses. And then they responded. And suddenly there was light everywhere. It was completely amazing, and it was peaceful. And he was in that moment free of pain and in a beautiful space. And then the vet arrived and helped him to be free eternally. And I'll never forget that experience, how powerful healing could be. I don't go with an agenda. I just go saying I'll do my best on whatever levels possible.
Was it difficult?
And
Just sorry to interrupt you, Margaret. Was it difficult for the owner in that space? Because to see her horse suddenly get to his feet and to call out and to be reactive and to be free of pain in that moment, was it hard to then make the call again when the vet arrived to actually say
well,
goodbye?
I'd known her for many years. I'd known him for maybe 15 years. And, you know, I always explain to people, that's a really good question. Healing is not a substitute for anything else. If it's not going to help any human or any horse live for 500 years. There is a time scale. There is an ending to the life on this planet. That's a given, and that's a fact. Healing is about helping in the moment on whatever levels possible. So she had said to me, I'd like him to have a good passing. I'd like him to be free of pain. I'd like the peace. And she joined in it, and she felt the peace, and she felt that wonderful energy. And so she was very happy that that passing was peaceful, and it was a very special memory for her. With my own animals, I've always so far been present when they've transitioned, and there is a very, very special time at the end of transition when they are preparing to leave. So yeah, I mean, that is a fact. There will be an end for everyone here. It's not this isn't the only life.
Isn't it interesting, Margaret, to think about that? Because actually most of our working days, we're so busy and all consumed with what we need to do on our jobs list, what we have to get done at work, you know, family issues, problems with friendships, commitments in our lives. But actually to remember wholeheartedly that at the end of the day, we are all going to leave this planet, as you say, that the clock ticks and there's a time for
Yeah,
everyone. And yet it's something none of us really talk about. And I'm sure for you
yeah,
and your work, you talk about it more than most. But for the
yeah,
likes
I
of
do.
me and for our
Yeah.
listeners, it's something we don't face on a day to day.
And that's why it's so important to fill every day with healing, with love, with peace, to do random acts of kindness, to speak to someone. You know, if I see someone, I'm always engaging people in conversations, because just saying to someone, I like your coats, or those are nice shoes, to someone that might look a bit sad and lonely somewhere, you're sitting next to them on a plane or something. I mean, I know in society it's often frowned upon now not to talk to strangers, and you can't just go up to anybody, but sometimes there's an opportunity. I'm sitting at a cafe table with someone, or an aeroplane is more opportunity. And I just think saying some kind things often makes someone's day, and we don't know how that then has a knock-on effect. When I'm out and about, I talk to all the animals I meet. You know, I meet lots of people dog walking, or riding their horses, and I always stop and engage them. Oh, that's a lovely horse, or I really like your dog. What's your dog's name? Or, oh, you've got a cat in your garden. That's really nice. And that's often an opener. But I think humans en masse need to do more random acts of kindness, need to engage more, and need to remember this life is for a set time. And this is not going to help us on our journey. But talking to people, going out in nature, looking for ways that we can help others, looking for ways we can interact on a healing wavelength is going to, and also remembering that and thinking, how can I develop myself as a human? Because when I leave, and I include everybody in this, when everybody leaves, you take with you what you are at that given moment. So if you're full of hatred, if someone's full of envy, if they're full of all of these things, that's their eternal life. They're off we go. So the stage we've reached at any given time is this: if this life ends now, are we content with what we've achieved and what we've done? Because we can't, okay, there are some people say they've returned, but we don't know that. Maybe this is just one chance and it's too late when the door closes.
Oh, it's so fascinating, Margaret, hearing you talk. And for the likes of me and those listening who think, well, I'm not a healer, I haven't thought since childhood that I've got a healing connection. How can we be better healers and listeners of our voices?
Everybody is an energy being, so everybody has the potential to tune into the healing level. Everybody has the potential to want to help others. It's a choice. And okay, I recognize that from a young age, but it doesn't matter. Everybody in this moment can say, I want to go back to my healing roots, because we can. Join a healing group. Mindfulness, meditation. I'm a qualified mindfulness meditation teacher. Practice mindfulness, get in touch with inner peace, and that triggers people off. Join a healing organization. Find out where your level of healing is. It's there for everybody. It is there for everybody. It's not unique to me or a few people who belong to a healing group. Everyone can join the Healing Trust. Tune into it. The training will soon be online, so people can do that, and I will soon be running accreditations for the Healing Trust in animal healing. So that's an opportunity, and just think about, make decisions. If someone is constantly affecting our energy in a negative way, can we move on? Do we have to interact with them? We can make choices about where we go, what we do. So I, long time ago, made choices about what I eat, what I drink, the places I go to, the things I do for entertainment. I like music things. I like, and you find that you attract like-minded souls. And I meet lots of different people and suddenly have these fascinating conversations. It might be a taxi driver, it might be someone in a supermarket, it might be anywhere, but it's about radiating light. So that's another piece of science. We all resonate on a light vibration because we're energy beings. So radiate light, and work on it. And okay, it might not happen overnight, but it will. It will happen. Radiate light, tap into that healing vibration, and take that with us when we leave. And the animals are great teachers. They're waiting there. The horses are waiting to help us.
And of course, if we're more connected to ourselves, as you say, if we're engaging in mindfulness and meditation, and we're sort of coming back to who we are when we're not dashing about for work or for family or friends, in that frenzy of a moment that we can all identify with. Actually, the animals pick up on that, don't they? On our energy and how
Completely.
we're feeling.
And we can't get away from family responsibilities, jobs, all this. I've got to get in the car. Yesterday I had to jump in the car and go somewhere and buy a new hard drive for my computer. We've got all of that stuff going on. We can't get away with it. Very few people can sit on a mountaintop and meditate forever. It doesn't work that way. But if we put it into our life, so 10 minutes of deep breathing, meditation breathing, actually has been scientifically shown to reduce brain inflammation. Now, that's
Wow.
a big thing. Everybody has got 10 minutes. They can make a decision instead of this. They can say, I have my 10 minutes and I'm going to do slow, deep breathing. You can download meditation music. I've got CDs of meditation music. Everybody can do that and feel better afterwards. And don't just do it every day, once or twice, and say, oh, it didn't work, I still felt stressed. It has to be, we have to make a promise to ourselves. Do we want to help ourselves go through all of the stuff? Do it every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day if we've got the time. When we're dog walking, sitting with the cat, with the horses, just stand there and do some deep breathing, slow through the nose. Because mouth breathing triggers anxiety and the sympathetic nervous system. So nose breathing, if possible, if we don't have a chest problem or cold or something, actually is calming and relaxing. So nose breathing. Join a yoga group. Go to a Pilates class. They're all great places for taking time out, helping reduce the brain inflammation, helping the anxiety, helping us to feel less stressed. So they're all great things to do.
And actually, I feel so inspired, Margaret, hearing you talk in that way, because how often, and I'm sure there are others like me as well, those listening might agree, that we have in our schedule, right, I'm going to spend this week X amount of hours grooming my wonderful mare and spending time with her, bonding quality time, booked in the diary. And then actually I feel quite sad on an evening when I've got to get dinner on and I've run late from work and, I've got to do X, Y and Z. And actually it's just a quick hello to the horses and the hay is scattered out in the fields and the water buckets are quickly topped up over the fence and everything's swept down the yard. And it's like, right, everyone's happy, everyone's fed, yeah, water troughs are done. Right, off I go back in the car, dinner goes on. Actually, I would love to be more in the moment. If I can just spend 5-10 minutes with my mare, with my miniature men, my little miniature rescues, in that moment every day, rather than having it as a booked hourly slot each
and
week.
just to turn up, maybe, and just another mindfulness techniques that's super relaxing is slow walking. People get out of the car and they're going there. It's actually walking slowly. And people say, oh, I haven't got time. Everybody's got time from when they close the car door to walking up to the stable to do it slowly. It's an attitude. Walk slowly, breathe through the nose, so arrive slow. Greet the horse and just step back and just go into a moment and just build that in. Because ultimately, okay, our horses are suffering, but who's suffering most of all? Who is suffering most of all? We are, if we're constantly frenetic. And I'm coming back to this again, and we're standing there grooming and looking at the phone, or riding, looking at the phone. So we make a choice. We can either be that person that's distracted, anxious, whose brain's inflamed because the energy's hyper, they're stressed. Or we can be the person that says, I'm enjoying my life more. In a real way. My horses are more relaxed because I'm relaxed, because they're prey animals. They pick up on the energy of the predator. I feel healthier, and my life has got more purpose.
It's so interesting, Margaret, because I was going to say, again, I love how you've kept bringing up your phone, picking up your phone and waving it at us as that reminder that we are all glued to. I mean, here's mine sat in my lap, as if it's a baby sat on my lap. And we're all connected to our phones at 24/7, waiting for that work call or email, waiting to hear from that person.
We make a choice to do that. My phone,
Mm.
people are always saying to me, I can't reach you, because I spend specific times when I switch it on and I look. No one, absolutely no one, not even Elon Musk, is on his phone all of the time. Needs to be. If you're at work, if we're working, so people working from home, yes, they need to be. They've got specific times. They're at work. They're on their laptops. They're on their iPads. They're on their phone. But when we don't need to be, we have a choice. Do I want to be making myself ill, and the relationships I have with my horses and my other animals are not as deep and as peaceful as they could be, or do I want to be in that state? And now all we do is switch it off. We just switch it off.
Do you think we have lost our connection to ourselves and to our horses in this current state of society?
Yes. Yeah. But we have a choice. We can get back to it. And I see it all the time on my workshops, where day one is maybe a struggle and it's all a bit, and then day two, that's all it takes. It's not like, oh, it'll take me weeks to get out of it. It takes a few hours. And that's why I say go to a Pilates class or a yoga class, because people often say the same after that, where they've done the special breathing. Or if people can't meditate at home, that's an easy way of doing it, because you have to do it and be focused there. And people say, oh, I feel so much better. It's a choice to get out of this vicious circle, and don't take, I mean, I do take my phone out when I go out for a walk, simply because I might slip over on the ice or something and need to call for help. It's useful, but I'm not looking at messages. It is switched off. And I would only put it on if I did need to call for help or I came across a situation. So it's saying, okay, I'm going to start taking baby steps and get out of this. Don't ride on you while you're looking at your phone. Don't, in the stable yard, keep looking at your phone. No one needs to do that unless you're a vet and you're waiting for some emergency call. But we can all step back and say, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? What's the alternative? And the alternative is, we are spiritual beings. We are affected by negative energy. We're affected by the choices we make, and we can make better choices. And the benefits are very quick. They're instant. They're very, very quick. And we see the horses in a different way. They recognize us as different. And why not step into our miracles? Why not step into this power that we are as a very highly evolved being? It's there just waiting for us.
And do you know what, Margaret? I'm guilty of that, of being up at the stables with my horses, checking notifications, glancing at my phone and automatically picking up my phone because it's become a terrible habit. And actually listening to you talk there, I just sort of got memories come to mind of when I used to take my notebook, my journals up to the yard, and I used to sit in the fields with my horses and I used to journal and write, about what was going on with life and feel connected.
You would have in that time picked up so many things. what's happening is when all of this other stuff comes up, we're missing out. We go home and all of the signs and signals and communication with the horses we could have picked up, we miss them. So the day isn't as fulfilling as it could have been. The gifts that are there, the little signs and the little messages the horses want to send us, we miss them. That's sad for us. I want to, when I'm going in these places, when I'm going for my walks, when I'm with the animals, I want to fully immerse in it. And it's not a sacrifice to do that. It's just making a choice. And if other people around me want to laugh or they want to criticize, I don't care. This is my life, my decision. This is the space I'm inhabiting, and this is how I want to live it. So, there's often a peer pressure, but I say to people, but it's your life. What other people, their criticism is completely irrelevant. Let them go.
Margaret, it's been so inspiring talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing such wisdom and insight and stories over the past hour. I'm leaving feeling motivated to find that inner peace and that inner connection once again to myself and to my horses. So thank you. For those who want to get in touch, Margaret, how do they find you?
I do have a website, but because I've been so busy, it's a bit out of date. I mean, my books are all still in print available, or my email address is margrithealer@hotmail.com. So I'm always available through that, margrithealer@hotmail.com. And step into your light.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to and watching Curious Equestrian. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube so that you don't miss an episode and all that's coming your way, or you can subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you listen. If you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would really help us to find lots more lovely listeners. And you can also follow us on Instagram @Curious Equestrian Podcast. We'll see you next time.